Good afternoon, everyone. This time I'd like to call the Nash County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for May the 24th. It is one of our more important meetings each year. It is the meeting in which today we will hear the presentation for next year's budget message from the manager. And we also have a great outside presenter today, which is our Nash County School System, and we'll get an update on their long-range capital project needs as well. But this time, it is customary for the Board of Commissioners to begin each meeting with a prayer by a sitting commissioner. And during this time, you're welcome to stand and join us in the prayer. You're welcome to use this time for your own prayer, or you're welcome to use it for a moment of silence, whichever you so choose. And of course, during our meetings between each speaker, we will have the podium cleaned with an ultraviolet light. If you'll just pause between each speaker, we'd certainly like to do that, continue doing that for a little while longer. But at this time, after the prayer, of course, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Commissioner Outlaw. At this time, I'd like to call on Mr. Wells to lead us in the invocation. Thank you.
Our Lord and our Father, how great we are to thank you for this beautiful day. God, just be with us as we go about and talk about the business of Nash County. God, how we can help our people, how we can move forward, Lord, and it all be in your plan. Just be with us through this meeting. Give us the words we need to say, the wisdom to know when to stop, and keep us all close to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Would you join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Wells, Commissioner Outlaw. We're now on item number 4 on the agenda, and at this time I would welcome our Superintendent, Dr. Steve Ellis, to the podium, or at least stand. I didn't know whether you wanted to introduce Shannon or not. Okay. Thank you all for being here. Shannon, welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the invitation to share our 10-year capital improvement plan that we submit to DPI every 5 years. This is a snapshot of our capital improvement plan, addressing many of the major needs in the school district. You will notice that some of the values listed may be a little escalated, especially on the mechanical side. These formulas were entered into a software program by DPI. So, and this document is fluid. Some things may change based on need. Okay, this document is divided in 2 phases. The phase 1 is the first 5 years. Phase 2 is the next 5 years. They're listed alphabetically, elementary, middle, and then the high schools. That's how we categorized them. To start with, the Baskerville Elementary School is window replacements. You'll see that in year 4. And mechanical upgrades in year 9. We have year 9, the chiller has been replaced about 10 years ago with an ice plant. So we'll be coming up probably on a 20-plus year on that mechanical system at Baskerville. Benvenue Elementary School, we have nothing in the first 5 years. We do need to overlay the parking lot and window replacement on that campus in year 6 and 7 respectively. Cedar Grove, of course, was approved by our board to close year 21-22. Cooper's Elementary School is a fairly new campus as well. We do have mechanical upgrades listed in year 10. D.S. Johnson is a school that has been recently renovated. Really the only need there will be a roof in year 7. Fairview Early Childhood, which is another facility built in '97, will be due a chiller upgrade in year 5. Inglewood Elementary School, window replacement in year 4. and a roof replacement in year 9. And again, the same year Baskerville had the ice plant, Inglewood was followed the next year with the same system. MB Hubbard, you'll look at a roof replacement in year 4. That will be on the building that was constructed, I believe it was 97, 98 range. It's a shingle roof, so we'll be looking at a roof replacement there. And the mechanical upgrades would be for the 100 wing. We're currently renovating the 2 and 300 wing in-house with the VRF system. We're kind of picking those off. We started last year, so we'll be working through that in the next year, year and a half, completing that. Middlesex Elementary School, you'll see in year 5 starting a design. That campus, the 300 building, was constructed in 1951. Year 6, hopefully starting to construct that wing. Nashville Elementary School is another school with the 300 building. It was constructed in 1936. That was what we call the old burn building up on the hill. That building needs to be replaced. We have it in year 2 and construction year 3. Red Oak Elementary, of course, will be breaking ground on that campus first week of June and opening in November 22. Swift Creek Elementary, again, as a campus going to be consolidated, we'll be closing that campus. Spring Hope Elementary School, roof replacement in year 2. And year 3 and 4, we're looking at design and build. That 200 building there was constructed in 1936. So that's a building that definitely needs to be removed and constructed to join what the new campus was in 98. Also in year 6, mechanical upgrades. That would be on the building constructed in 97, 98. The existing 100 office building. Williford Elementary School, we have window replacement in year 4 and mechanical upgrade in year 9. The mechanical upgrade is for the 100 wing. The existing new building is what we call it. The 2, 3, 4, and 500 wing, which is all of the older campus, has been totally renovated with mechanical LED lighting and suspended ceiling. So the old section has been totally renovated. Winstead Avenue Elementary, roof replacement. We're coming up just over 20 years on the construction of that campus. It's a 20-year shingled roof, and we're looking at having to replace that hopefully next year's budget. Also in year 8, we're looking at mechanical upgrades, changing those chillers out in Winstead Avenue. Now we're moving to the middle schools. Edwards Middle School, mechanical upgrades in year 3. We have started the 200. We have the equipment at our lots. We're planning on replacing those here in the next month on the 2-story wing. These other mechanical upgrades are for the rest of the campus, the 6, 7, 8, 9, and the office area. Looking at changing it over to possible VRF. Yes.
That's not what we're looking at on the screen. I think you might have went the wrong way, possibly.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt
There you go.
Shannon. Thank you. If you would
Yes,
start
sir.
right there.
Yes, sir. Nash Central Middle School, that is a campus that definitely needs some mechanical upgrades. We're planning on looking in year 4, possibly changing chiller there, as well as some changeover to the VRF system. We're still kind of in the thought process on that. And window replacement in year 6 on that campus. Of course, Red Oak Middle School, we do not have currently anything. Last fiscal year, we did replace the cooling tower on that campus. So that campus is in pretty good shape. Rocky Mount Middle is the same. Mechanical upgrades. We have chillers there that need to have some replacement and upgrading. And window replacement, we have that in year 10. Parker Middle School is a campus that definitely needs mechanical upgrades. A lot of the rest of the campus is in pretty good shape. We did do some window replacement about 5 to 6 years ago off the front, the main office, and window replacement and roof replacement have it in year 9 and year 10. Tar River Academy, as you will see, we've already moved it to 21-22. Our board approved that at the last meeting to close and relocate those kids to the Rocky Mount Middle Campus, a 2-story science building, which we're getting ready to start renovating and opening in the fall. Southern Nash Middle School. This roof replacement would be for the 400 wing next year. There's several wings on that campus, but that's a flat roof that's coming up on 30 years and needs replacement. Mechanical upgrades, that would be the 600 wing that we have need to finish completing updating. I know the 1, 2, 3, and 400 wing have been totally renovated, so we're left with the gymnasium and the 600 wing having that campus totally renovated as well. And also some window replacement in year 8. Okay, next page, City High. That's the campus at Rocky Mount Middle that we opened several years ago. When you see the mechanical upgrade, that is a portion of the City High campus that needs mechanical upgrades. So when we look at Rocky Mount Middle, we kind of broke those campuses down to what City High occupies and what Rocky Mount Middle occupies. Nash Central High, we're looking at roof replacement in year 2. We've actually started the process of re-roofing that campus. We started last summer replacing the roof on a 2-story. This summer we're looking at replacing the gymnasiums, both auxiliary and the main gym, and then next year we'll move on to another section. Hopefully within the next year and a half, we should hopefully have that campus re-roofed. Also, we're looking at changing the second chiller out in year 7. If you remember, we did replace the chiller that failed 2 summers ago. One of those chiller barrels, it was cheaper to replace the chiller than it was to make the repair. Early College High School, of course, we do not have anything listed on that campus. We basically just renovated that building. Northern Nash High School. This is the new field house. We're looking at the design and construction in year 2, and a mechanical upgrade of the main campus starting in year 3. We're actually going to start some of that next fiscal year, starting that process, kind of the same process we've just completed at Southern Nash High. We're going to start that at Northern Nash High. A lot of that will be done with in-house forces. Some will be contracted, depending upon the time frame and how that comes about. Southern Nash High School, again, overlay the student parking lot. That campus definitely needs overlaying, just as we did Northern Nash. Year 4, we have a roof replacement at Southern Nash. That's for the 400 building. That's the building that was last built, the new building in back. It has a single membrane roof, 20-year roof, and we're coming up on the time to have it replaced as well. And again, you'll see in year 10, mechanical upgrades. That's also the 400 wing at Southern Nash High School. And lastly, we have each year for the next 5 activity buses. I think several years ago, we were allotted, I think, $400,000 in lottery funding. We used $200,000 of that, I think, for 2 straight years to purchase activity buses. We purchased 4 new ones at that time, but we have a fleet that definitely needs to be updated. Accomplishments. Hopefully by the end of phase 1 and 2, we'll have a new field house at Northern Nash, replacing the 300 wing and cafeteria at Nashville Elementary School, replace the 200 wing and cafeteria at Spring Hope Elementary, continue the mechanical upgrades, replace single pane windows on several campuses, replace 5 activity buses. In phase 2, we look at replacing the 300 wing at Middlesex, continue the mechanical upgrades throughout the district, and continue replacing single pane windows on several campuses. Any questions?
Any questions of Mr. Davis from board members? Mr. Belfield?
Roof replacements, are you going to replace them with roofs similar to what they are? which is flat.
A lot of that is dependent upon funding, and when I say that, a lot of the roofs, if we have shingle, I would love to go back metal. Where we have flat roofs, of course, we would probably go back with a 30-year roof on that. Hopefully, we can get away from the shingles. Of course, shingles is a lot more efficient one time. The metal roof will last you much longer.
Are you saying that will last longer than metal?
No, sir, metal will last longer than shingle, but the upfront cost is kind of where you get into the shingle piece versus the metal roofing.
Wouldn't it be cheaper to, in the long run, to spend the money to put the metal roof on them?
There's no doubt, but again, from a funding standpoint, let's just take Winston Avenue. We've just pulled budget numbers for shingles. We can shingle that roof for around $200,000, 180 to 200, and it's about $400,000 to put a metal roof on it. So it's kind of correlation to how much funds you have, and with all the buildings we have to maintain, you have to spread the money around to the needs that you have.
Has there been any improvement on flat roof? Because water tends to it's going to find somewhere to go.
I fully understand. I guess the nature of it is, yes, I'm kind of under the same impression as you, but there are certain situations where flat roofs, for instance, gymnasiums and things of that nature, when we call them flat, they still drain. They still got enough drain because we have the spouts, the drainage systems up in the roofing system. So they're not technically flat. They still drain water off.
Yeah, I know they do, but they still leak.
Yes, sir.
So, on your heat and air systems, yeah, how long a warranty do you have on those before it play out?
It's totally dependent. I mean, you can buy down warranties. Most of the installation that we do, most of the time you get a 1-year parts. You can get 5-year on compressors. You can buy down warranty and get up to 10-year compressor. It's all dependent on manufacturer and what you spec in the job. I do know the new VRF system that, you know, I've advocated for, and at this point stand behind, they have 10-year on parts and labor, or excuse me, on parts, 2-year on labor. So that piece of equipment, they truly stand behind.
Have you done any calculation in preparing where it's good to have extended warranties?
With the staff that I have, I try not to get into the extended warranty. At the end of the day, I think the money that you would spend on the extended warranty, a lot of times I can buy the compressor and install them in-house cheaper than I can buy the extended warranty.
So you have in-house staff that can handle some of the things that you normally would have a warranty on?
Yes, sir. The staff I have can do quite a few things that we do in-house.
Mr. Allo?
Yes, sir. Shannon, very good presentation. I appreciate the information. It's good information. And if you could we get a copy of that presentation?
Sure.
Just a couple of things. Could you flip back to Southern Nash Middle for just a minute?
Okay.
Okay. I'm just thinking about what I see happening in the southern part of the county.
Yes, sir.
And I see a lot of work going on at other schools. Have you guys done any thoughts about what might happen to that middle school in terms of population? What is your population there, and what does it look like for the future?
I think the population at the southern end, I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys, there's a lot of building going on. From a standpoint of down the road, one of the reasons I am spending the money I am at Southern Nash Middle School, it is slab on grade campus. It's got a 600 building, which is fairly new campus. We've made an investment on that campus, which is the reason I have renovated basically everything on that campus with the exception of the floors. And that will take place at some point down the road. It's not
I just wondered, with what we see happening out there, do you expect that you would have to add a wing or something like that?
That, or possibly do a repurpose at some point down the road. Again, I know what you're getting at from the population standpoint.
Right.
We haven't had those conversations internally yet, but those are conversations as we see the enrollment influx. There definitely has to be a need at some point down there, whether we keep that at the middle or do something else. Elementary school seats are a premium in the district.
Well, if you got it on your radar.
Yes, sir. We have thought about it. It's from a 50,000-foot level, and we haven't got down in the weeds with it. Yes, sir.
Right. Now, let me take you back to another middle school, Rocky Mountain Middle School.
Yes, sir.
What, does the population there support, with the proximity of middle schools to that school, spending a lot of additional money there? I know you've got City High there, but City High could be relocated if that campus population didn't support continuing there.
Sure. The one positive thing about, and this is Shannon's point of view, that campus has been a lot of money spent on it over the years. We've had an addition there, and from a middle school standpoint, in relation to another middle school in that area, let's just say Edwards,
Right.
Rocky Mountain Middle is more suitable for the athletic piece as far as the size. We've got a couple of buildings on that campus that could still be utilized to build the enrollment numbers back up. Those are conversations that will be had here in the very near future.
Yeah, okay. Last thing I want to do is go back to Middlesex Elementary. I just want to clarify something there. Look at the Middlesex Elementary. The 300 wings, so the 5 million should be in 27-8 or 26-27.
Yes, sir.
Normally, the money's over it, so does it move back to 26-27?
Yes, sir. And again, those years, this entire document can be fluid based on.
You got to have the money if you start constructing
Exactly
the
right.
wings.
Yes, sir.
So that would move back into 26-27?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
Just a comment, Shannon.
Yes, sir.
I mean, Bailey, that area is fixing to grow. I mean, if we're going to build 300 houses down there, you're looking at, what, 300 to 600 at least students, elementary, middle school, and it's going to happen quick. There's a lot of it going to happen soon. So you need to consider what we're going to do. If I understand Bailey Elementary is already full.
It's not at capacity, but it doesn't like much. You're exactly right. I think we have more seats at Middlesex now, which is all the more reason, even though we're not adding a lot of seats with this new, with the construction plan, although once we get to that point, we could add seats in the Middlesex area.
You'll have a lot of growth at Middlesex too. I mean, there's some of it already planning and coming. But that Bailey area is going to have a problem soon, I would think.
Yes, sir. I know, I'm not speaking for Dr. Ellis, but we are starting to have conversations about enrollment and numbers, so there are conversations taking place.
Yeah, it was just knowing that, when it might be expected, it could help us in planning funding.
Sure, yes, sir.
So it's something we'd really need to look hard at.
Other commissioners with comments, questions? I had just a couple, Shannon. Very good presentation. I appreciate that. I like to learn something every day. When you use the term ice plant, what does that mean?
It was the previous director, Mr. Reuter. It was, for all intents and purposes, to really break it down. It's like you make ice overnight when the rates were cheap, and you cool the building during the day with the ice plant.
Okay. So it's still a chiller, but
It's still a chiller, but you're using the utility savings.
I know what you're referring to now. I appreciate that. I can't help but notice that the total on this 10-year plan is somewhere about 60% of what it was 10 years ago. What would you attribute that significant change in? In other words, we were about 40% less than we were 10 years ago. I just can't help but continue to be amazed at what you do in-house and the talent that you got, which is so unusual for a school system. But what makes that 40% decline when I would have expected it maybe to even be as much or possibly more because of the age of some of our buildings. But do you have a thought on that?
Not really. This is a plan that I put together based on some of the projects that were in the last CIP. Not all were used, and we're kind of going in a little bit of different direction than maybe the last CIP was. I think there may have been a little more construction possibly. I think even Parker had a closing of the campus and a consolidating the Johnson and Fair. It was a different idea at the time. So
And it
some of
was
the
done by a consultant, which you just reminded me of, not in-house. Is that correct?
what was that question?
The last CIP was done by a consultant and not in-house.
No, Smith Senate did the mechanical side of that, but it was still conducted in-house. But the 2013 study, yes, was, which is a lot of what I base my numbers, all the numbers you see on the mechanical stuff. When you hear me talk about the facility cost index and things like that, that was the study that they completed. It was a third party, yes, sir.
I noticed as you went through, particularly the elementary schools, what we had spent on each school and where we were and what the needs were. Of course, we continue to hear in the news media about us not possibly looking after some of our schools located in the eastern part of our school district. But your numbers and of what you had here and what you showed the needs are, doesn't appear to make that idea true at all to me. And as you know, because I talked to you about it a couple times recently, I did a study myself just to study the numbers to see if that was indeed a problem that this board should be concerned about. And it looked like when you take the kind of things that you're doing here, which are major updates and not painting and things of that nature particularly, the average cost of what you would spend a year in a school building is about $2.73 per square foot nationally, according to some numbers that I found. And when you look at that $2.73 a square foot and then study it as it relates to our square footage of schools, in a 5-year plan, you would be spending, somewhere around $12 or $13 per square foot. And you were pretty darn close to that number. I was really amazed. But what it also showed that those schools located in the eastern half of our district actually were up near $14, where the ones in the western part were closer to the national average of about almost 13, not quite 13. So I don't think this board has an issue with where we're spending the money or where y'all are spending the money. That's all y'all's decisions. It's not our decisions. We give you what we can give you. But I declare it was very well spread throughout the district. And quite frankly, being in the business that I'm in, it just looks like you get a lot done for what money we're able to give you. And I, on behalf of the board, want to thank you for what you and your staff do in that regard. I think our biggest challenge coming up, we were able to fund the last one in a manner apparently that we get worse off because we're better off today than we were 10 years ago. But our problems going forward is what several commissioners brought up, is going to be our growth, I think. Do you or anyone in your staff monitor the number of subdivisions we approve each month and the number of permits that we issue? Is that in something y'all do? Possibly, if not, it may be something that we need to work together on so you will have that data, because I just think we are where Johnson County was 10 or 12 years ago. It seems like, based on our meetings, they're getting longer and longer. 9-hour meeting last month. We're going to have another lengthy one in June, but it's all driven by public hearings on new subdivisions and approving more lots. So I'd rather us both work together as boards and get ahead of that curve than to wake up one day and realize we got a mess, short and long of it, because it takes a long time for us to get enough money to go build a school with. So just a thought while we're discussing long-range capital improvement plan?
We don't follow them as closely, probably, as the monthly. It would be something that would be very interesting if we could get our hands on that data. I have been contacted by a couple developers on a couple of school ADMs and things of that nature. So we are privy to the larger developments that are being proposed, but a lot of the smaller stuff we do not. I do know that we do look at our ADM numbers. We do look at where the empty seats are. We know that there's a problem coming at some point in the very near future. We know in the Nashville area, definitely, the southern end. Well, I would say the Nashville area is probably our biggest crisis right now as far as empty seats.
Lack of empty seats.
Lack of empty seats, yes, sir. So we are paying attention, and I think hopefully in the very near future, we'll have some other things that we'll know exactly what the empty seats are and where we look like as a district.
Should that report that we get anyway, Mr. Lamb, if you could, we get it the first day of the month, like clockwork, as far as permits issued, and then, of course, we get the planning board's agenda each month as well. Should that go to you or someone else? And Dr. Ellis may want to answer that. I don't know. Okay. So, Mr. Lamb, if you or Stacy could just make sure they start getting that, I believe you're going to see it kind of surprising, and maybe go ahead and give them what we've done in the last 6 months also, because it is pretty fascinating. Other questions or comments, Mr.
Just
Outlaw?
one more that just popped into my head. With Nashville being a priority, obviously, does the construction of the new school in Red Oak give you some short-term relief to the Nashville issue? You're not filling that school up initially, are you?
Well, the current ADM, when we combine the three campuses, is about, don't hold me to it, around 700, 703, I think is what the three schools combined. It's a little over 800 ADM. The one thing that does concern me are the number of developments, proposed developments that are coming up around the school, which leaves us roughly 100 to grow there, so that's not a lot of growth.
I agree. Thank you.
We probably already approved that many this year already. Mr. Belfield?
Oh, I was just going to make a comment in connection. I appreciate you spreading this improvement that you're going to make out over the entire district. I've had in my mind some time ago that some schools on certain ends of the school district were not getting a fair share, but your plan here looks pretty good, and I just commend you for spreading it out. And at the same time, where the greatest need is, we should address it as soon as possible. We want all of our children to be in an environment that's conducive for learning and have one of the best school systems in this state, and it could even be recognized on a national level too. So we both work together. There's federal money, there's state money and county money, and then there's other grants out there that can be applied for that you possibly could get to. So let's work together.
Thank you, Mr. Belfield. Well said. Mr. Lamb, did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, just a couple quick questions. The roof on Red Oak will be metal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. An activity bus costs about $100,000?
I think the last quote we got was taxes and road rate is about 104, yes, sir.
Okay. And when y'all adopted this 5- and 10-year plan, did the board unanimously adopt it? Do you know?
Yes, sir, I think it was unanimous.
Okay. And what Mr. Cohn brought up about the growth in Middlesex, is there a surrounding district where you have empty seats? So redistricting will need to probably take place before you could even build another building or either build additional classrooms.
Yes, sir, I hate to use the word realignment, that's above my pay grade. but there's definitely,
Oh, man.
would have to be some thought
To that.
into moving kids into some empty seats.
Does Middlesex have enough room for additional classrooms?
It has some additional, it is one of the schools that does have some empty seats at this point. Now, again, with the building, next year it can change. But yes, right now, we're not at capacity on that campus.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Other comment, questions?
Just one more quick.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, could we ask I asked that Shannon give us a copy of the presentation, but could you just provide it to the clerk and let the clerk include it with the minutes, and then we'd have it at any time we wanted to reference it?
Yep.
If that would be okay. Thank you.
All right, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you all both for being here, and I do want to say again on behalf of the board that we thoroughly enjoy the relationship, Dr. Ellis, that we've been able to establish since you've been with us, and look forward to many years ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Y'all welcome to stay for a couple of hours if you like, if you have nothing to do this afternoon.
I won't be that long.
The next item on the agenda is our fiscal year 2021-2022 budget presentation. That is done each year by our manager, and Mr. Lamb, we'll turn it over to you at this time, sir. And I guess what you're going to talk about is in the book we have at our seats when we
Yes.
arrive today.
It's the first tab, and it's the message and ordinance. I'm going to read and discuss the letter, and the ordinance is just for your information. That would be adopted at the time you adopt the budget. That is actually the document that you adopt to approve the budget in June. Like to start off with thanking the board for your hard work during this budget process. Also thank the board for the camaraderie that is exhibited by this board. We all see at the state and federal level a lot of polarization, and we don't see that here in Nash County, our Board of Commissioners. We don't treat people based upon their party affiliation or anything else. Y'all do a great job in respecting each other's opinions, and that's a breath of fresh air in this day and age, and I would just like to commend y'all for.
You've got to understand that we each have a very strong-willed spouse that we stay with as well. Keeps us in line.
Well, it is an example for others to follow, no doubt. I also want to thank the staff for their hard work in this proposed budget, and thank the board for your support of the staff this year and in prior years. I'm going to start off by reading, it's about a 8-page document. I will read it, particularly Mr. Arrington, if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt, but any of y'all are free to interrupt, or you can ask questions at the end.
What I'm going to do, Mr. Lamb, is once you get through the presentation, that document, I'm going to take about a 10-minute break at a previous request I had, and then we'll come back and do questions. That's okay with you?
Would you like to take a break now?
No, sir. I
Okay.
think we're good right now.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners, this FY 2021-2022 budget is presented to you in accordance with the North Carolina Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act. The proposed budget is presented subject to a public hearing and the Nash County Board of Commissioners revisions and approval. This budget as presented is balanced. The budget provides the resources necessary to ensure the delivery of governmental services in a fiscally responsible manner. The budget is one of the best tools to demonstrate the board's priorities for the future of Nash County. This proposed budget is a continuation of the fiscally sound and fiscally conservative practices established and embraced by Nash County government. The budget contains the expenditures and revenues for all county funds. This message will focus primarily on the general fund, which is the largest fund and includes all governmental activities supported by local tax revenue. County administration received budget requests, revenue estimates, and other financial information from various officials, officers, department heads, and agencies of Nash County. The proposed budget is based on staff information and information provided by and input from the county commissioners. Each department or agency presented an original budget request to the finance office. The county manager reviewed the request to establish a budget for submission to this board. Subsequently, the commissioners have preliminarily reviewed the budget. In the case of special appropriations requested by outside governmental agencies and nonprofits, including the Nash County Board of Education and the Nash Community College Board of Trustees, the recommended appropriations reflect the results of budget work sessions involving the Board of Commissioners and county staff. As we are all aware, local government, as well as state government and the federal government, our local government is facing unprecedented economic events with the coronavirus pandemic, related restrictions and continuation of vaccination efforts of our citizens. While we have not been greatly adversely affected from a revenue standpoint, COVID has put a lot of stress and anxiety on our staff. With this in mind, we believe this budget reflects our efforts to remain cautious, yet focusing on providing the basic level of services in the proposed upcoming budget. The overall Nash County 21-22 proposed budget, which includes the general fund, enterprise funds, special revenue funds, and internal service funds, is $115,356,660, compared to the current year's overall approved budget of $109,385,234. The upcoming general fund budget, as proposed, is $100,334,574, which is $4.758 million, or 4.98% greater than the current year original budget. The upcoming budget year, this budget is recommended is based on a 67-cent tax rate. The same as the current year. This represents the 12th consecutive year that the tax rate has remained at 67 cents. The tax rate, as recommended, is able to remain consistent without reducing services to our citizens due to continued tax-based growth and frugal budgeting efforts throughout the year. There are many significant budgetary issues that are addressed in this budget proposal. The following portion of the budget message highlights particular funding items which have significant impact on the proposed budget. Following are some of those specific items. Salaries. The Nash County Board of Commissioners have indicated a desire to ensure that the county is able to provide a salary increase for our employees. Therefore, this budget includes a recommended 3% cost of living COLA, and the cost of that 3% for all our employees in county government is right at $1 million. During the past 3 years, the commissioners have provided generous COLAs to our employees, including 5% in FY 2019, 5% in FY 2020, 3% last year in FY 2021, and the additional 3% that's proposed in this budget. What this amounts to is that in 36 months, the commissioners have given raises to all our employees, and with compounding those raises, in 36 months, you've given 17% raises to all the county employees. One budget driver this year is the local government retirement system continues to increase the retirement rate for employers. This year, it's going from 10.2% to 11.4% for general employees, and 10.84 to 12.04 for law enforcement. This change by itself results in about a $400,000 increase in the general fund. I will say one of the best things this board has ever done is go from a self-insured health insurance program. Several years ago, y'all joined the state health insurance plan, and I guess it was in 2018. We kept getting increases every year in the cost of the self-insure plan, as well as cuts in the benefits, and thanks to joining the state health plan, which we were allowed to do, we have done away with our previous 10 to 12% increases. As you can see, for fiscal year 21-20, actual changes for the health plan have not been received. They are effective in January, so we'll get those at some point. But we are anticipating, for budgeting purposes, about a 4% increase. That amount is $60,000 in the recommended budget. Since joining the state health plan in 2018, Nash County has experienced an increase of 4% in 2019, 3% in 2020, and a decrease of 2% in 2021. I can assure you we never saw that with the self-insured plan unless you drastically cut benefits. The following information will provide a review of the proposed revenue for the general fund. Property tax collections. Ad valorem tax revenue reflects an increase of 3% over the current year budget due to an increase in the tax base for 2022. The increase is primarily due to new construction, increases in personal property in the county, and also I would say about a 15% increase this year in our registered motor vehicles in the county. According to the 1920 Nash County audit, the overall tax collection rate for Nash County was 99.06%. And I just can't say enough about Doris Sumner and her staff getting that figure up. They work on it till June 30th every year to bring in as much of that outstanding delinquent tax as they can. You can see just on real personal property and public utilities, they're collecting 98.92%, and under the new, or the 5 or 6 year old new motor vehicle collection, that's calculated at 100%. For purposes of estimating next year's property tax revenues, this proposed budget assumes a conservative collection rate of 97.5 for real and personal property and for motor vehicles. So since we're at 99, the reason we do that is if you have a recession or anything like that, or a natural disaster, we could expect that that revenue source to go down, and so we project conservatively. The difference between what we're projecting and what we collected last year would bring in about $750,000. But again, we feel it is best to be conservative in that budget revenue estimate. Not only do they in the tax office do a great job collecting the current year taxes, but each year they focus on prior year taxes also. And taxes assessed by this board are collectible, enforceable for a period of 10 years. So our tax office continues to try to concentrate on collection of prior year delinquent taxes. Due to increased collections in current and prior year taxes, the tax office continues to reduce the 10-year outstanding delinquent tax balance. And you can see that chart there that at one point, 8 years ago, we were at $5.7 million in outstanding taxes as of June 30th of that year of 2013. And now we're less than $3 million, June of 20. So again, I give a lot of credit to the tax office for their insistence that people pay their taxes. The estimated tax base and rate, the estimated tax base is used in this budget to determine the amount of property tax revenue that will be available in the upcoming budget. The estimated tax base amount is provided to the county manager by the county's tax administrator. The amount of revenue expected to be collected in the coming year is determined by the tax base and the tax collection rate. The Nash County 2021 tax year valuation estimate provided by the tax administrator provides for a total valuation for this coming year at $7.984 billion. At 100% collection, each penny that you assess, that's 67 cents, will produce $798,400. The total estimated tax base increase from last year is at 3.25% in this budget. And it could be higher. This year, we estimated an amount, and it came in higher. So again, we're using conservative assumptions. The total taxable valuation for real and personal property and public utilities within Nash County is estimated at $7,013 million, and for motor vehicles, $971 million. With the proposed tax rate of 67 cents per 100 valuation, using a conservative collection rate of 97.5, the upcoming general fund budget anticipates the collection of $52,155,000 in ad valorem tax revenues, including $45.8 million for real property, personal property, and public utilities, and $6.3 million for motor vehicles. The $52,155,000 budgeted tax collections for the upcoming year represents an increase of approximately $1.64 million over the current year. Including estimates for the collection of prior year delinquent taxes, interest, and other miscellaneous charges, total ad valorem revenue is budgeted at $52 million. This amount represents 52.6% of the general fund budget. Sales tax is our second largest revenue source. We are budgeting $17,447,000 for the upcoming year. The estimated collection is based on the current year projected collections and represents an increase of $1.5 million more than we budgeted in the current year. Other taxes consist of property excise tax, vehicle rental tax, and privilege license tax, and they together amount to almost $400,000. Sales tax collections are the second largest, as I said, funding source for the general fund. Sales tax and other such taxes represent almost 18% of the recommended budget. The breakdown of sales tax revenues includes the restricted sales tax from Article 40 and Article 42 to be used for school capital projects, debt service, and school capital expenditures. Of the half-cent Article 40, 30%, I believe, goes to this fund for schools, and Article 42, 60% of that money goes to public schools' capital needs. The projected restricted amounts of $3.995 million and $772,000 from Article 44 leaves for the county unrestricted county tax, sales tax in the amount of $12,678,000. We also collect monies from the federal and state government, and a little from local governments with some smaller programs, but mainly state and federal dollars. And we're estimating about $15 million. That's to supplement the cost of social services, the health department, and those intergovernmental revenues which come in and then are distributed through the expenditures represent 15.4% of the general fund. Other operating revenues are permits and fees, $1.24 million, sales and services, $3.9 million, investment earnings, $85,000, and I will say that is about 1/10 of what it has been prior to interest rates going down so low. We're not getting a whole lot of money for our fund balance in interest, so that number continues to drop. Those other operating revenues represent about 6.5% of the general fund budget. Permits and fees, including building permits and planning fees, are estimated to be $478,000. Register of deeds fees, $418,000. Sheriff also collects about $178,000 for concealed carry, fingerprinting, and fees for serving papers. And Parks and Recreation athletic participation fees, we bring in about $179,000. Sales and services include ambulance, transport, and Medicaid settlement collections totaling $3.3 million. And other items included are health services, $355,000, court and jail processing fees of $270,000 and $49,000 respectively, related for $49,000 related to senior services and Parks and Recreation special events. I will say that the court and jail processing fees are the one revenue that did drop off in the last 12 months because of the closure of the court system. There was less revenue than we anticipated originally. Transfers from other funds. We are transferring for capital, general fund, appropriations and reserves to assist in debt service on projects in the amount of $856,000, or 85% of the general fund. This includes $804,000 for school-related debt and $51,000 for the public safety radio project. Fund balance and reserve appropriations. The upcoming budget proposes $5.8 million, or 5.8% of the general fund budget in fund balance appropriation. This includes $1.74 million for one-time capital expenditures and $4.1 million for the general fund as a balancing factor. I will say that one-time capital expenditure, obviously, last year was $811,000, so it has nearly doubled. We had about $4.7 million in capital requests this year from the departments, and we included $1.7 million. The $4.1 million for the general fund is higher than last year's $3 million. That was a result, we had it at 3, but it was decided that that the commissioners wanted to provide a 3% raise to the employees, and so that is the bulk of the difference between last year's fund balance appropriated. I feel, though, that with our very healthy fund balance and with perhaps funds from the American Rescue Plan that can be used throughout the budget, that we are on sound financial footing by appropriating that additional $1.1 million from fund balance. And our hope, as usual, is that the revenues will come in higher, which they will, and we don't spend every dollar in our expenditure line items. So we hope that that will balance out that $4.1 million. The budget also provides for $1.007 million from the health reserves that are used for health department functions. The county considers the one-time capital expenditures as appropriate and reasonable use of fund balance. In addition, each year some amount of fund balance is used as a balancing factor. Nash County budgets an amount we believe can be offset with a combination of greater than expected revenues and expenditures less than appropriated. We make reasonable estimates of each revenue line item in the budget based on historical trends and other information. We are careful not to be too optimistic in revenue projections, believing that our projections should be conservative. While we do not know the exact revenue line items that will exceed their budgeted amounts, though we're confident that ad valorem tax will come in higher than the budget amount, and sales tax will come in than the budgeted amounts. We are confident that the need to use the balance and factor appropriation will be minimal, if at all. The basic theme for the general fund is simplicity. As in prior years, we continue to provide a basic budget that focuses on providing the basic level of services with a few notable exceptions: a cost of living increase, increases to the retirement benefit cost and health insurance, and a few additional items related, such as personnel and capital requests, as follows. There are numerous personnel requests within the general fund. We did have quite a bit of requests from various departments. However, the budget recommends the following changes that we consider are very important, and we urge your adoption. A full-time communication specialist is recommended to assist in the new public communications department to address the growing need to keep citizens informed. We are getting more and more public records requests. We're getting more and more requests for information throughout the state and also locally. And I believe we've been doing a great job. We are elevating the Mr. Edwards, Jonathan Edwards, to the communications director and hiring a specialist to assist him. Also, the part-time farmers market coordinator is recommended to become full-time due to the increased activity with our farmers market. I can tell you that the Nashville is looking at having a farmers market on Friday. They have met with Cooperative Extension and we may be able to get about a 20% set off from the town. That's still in negotiation, but we're very confident they will do that, and she will help with the Friday, coordinate the Friday farmers market in Nashville. We're also recommending some part-time security personnel to deal with the security concerns here in the administration building. Y'all know about the first floor by the parking lot, and so we do have some money in the budget for that. I did meet last week with the sheriff, and he had requested, among other things, to add an additional person on each shift. He's got 4 shifts, and so he had a vacant captain position that's going to become a deputy, and I'm recommending the addition of 3 more full-time deputies so that he can increase each of his 4 shifts by 1 deputy. The general fund proposed budget also includes funding for a pay study. Various departments have asked for this, including the sheriff, and And I believe that after 6 or 7 years, it is a timely request, and therefore we put $50,000. We don't think it'll be quite that much, but we hope not. But I'm confident that that pay study, it always comes up with some recommendations to increase a position here or there, but with the generosity of this board over the last 36 months, 17% increase, I believe we are competitive when it comes to our surrounding counties and other counties that have similar tax base and population. The recommended budget also includes additional funding for rescue services. These services are provided by Stony Creek, Bailey, Coopers, and Momine. In addition to maintaining the level of service provided by these departments, the proposed budget includes an increase of $5,800 for each unit, in addition to an appropriation of $20,000 for Stony Creek based on dispatched rescue calls, which equates to an increase in funding for the 4 rescue squads of $43,200. The general fund recommended capital, as I said before, is about $1.7 million, or $1.7 million of the general fund. It is an increase of $987 over last year. It is in the back of your book under CIP, I believe the last tab. You can look at the requests that were made by the departments and what we are recommending be funded. And they are the result of budget work sessions as well as staff coming up with recommendations. In this recommended budget, capital spending is budgeted separately from the requesting department's budget. So a capital request will not be embedded yet in the individual department budgets. They are kept in a separate line item by the finance officer, and as those capital funds are properly requested and appropriated, then they get moved to the respective departments for purchase. The recommended capital in this budget, along with proposed 5-year capital improvement plan, was reviewed, as I said, by the Board of Commissioners. The CIP that is recommended for approval includes only the items identified for expenditure in the coming year. Future years of CIP are identified in the CIP to assist the county in planning for future capital spending needs. Last week, as I said, I did discuss with the sheriff his request for additional vehicles. Last year, the board appropriated funds for 3 new vehicles. He then used federal asset forfeiture dollars to purchase additional vehicles. So we had 3 in there. We agreed last week in my discussions with him to increase that to 6, and he has pledged to spend federal asset forfeiture funds to buy additional vehicles. He insists that he needs 18 new vehicles, and therefore we will be purchasing 6 of those, and he will be responsible for the other 12 through his capital, through his federal asset forfeiture funds. And he has agreed to that. Keeping in mind the government-wide salary and benefit changes and the recommended personnel and capital noted above, the following information will provide an overview of the proposed expenditure functional categories for the general fund for next year. And I won't read them all, but the first governmental function, county function, is general government, and that is 10.1% of all expenditures. And that's where you get the most bang for your buck, in my opinion, because I'm part of that. That includes your budgets for the governing board, county administration, grants, which more than pays for itself, human resources, finance, legal services, IT, communications, tax, facility maintenance, register of deeds, and board of elections. All those functions come together as general government and account for 10% of all county appropriations. We again have about 25.6% of our general fund for public safety. That includes the sheriff's office, detention center, 911, emergency services, fire and rescue, EMS, medical examiner, forestry services, and animal control. Is right at 25.6% of the total budget, or $25 million. Economic and fiscal development is only about 3.8% of the budget, and that includes planning and inspections, cooperative extension, soil and water, rural transportation planning, Rocky Mount Wilson Airport, and economic development. The Economic Development Department provides funding for Nash County's in-house operations for county business and industry recruitment. In addition to funding operations for this department, the budget also includes estimated inducement commitments for Pfizer of $1.5 million and an incentive for small business support grants budgeted at $20,000. As we've discussed in the past, the three driving expenditure in county government is public safety, which we hit on, human services, and education. You will see that human services totals 25.4% of all spending, education 24.6% of all spending. Human services includes the health department, Department of Social Services, senior services, veteran services, mental health, juvenile justice programs, and outside agency requests, and home community care block grants. Education, I'll go ahead and skip over since I mentioned that, is again right at 25% of all expenditures. That goes towards the Nash public school system, over $20 million for current expense, and about $1.4 million for current year capital needs, not long-range capital projects, but they're year-to-year capital needs. And let's see. And for the community college, we're appropriating right at $2.4 million for current expense and $415,000 for capital needs. And right now, the school board's, school system's appropriation is the same as last year. However, there have been discussions between the commissioners and the school board regarding an additional supplement. This board increased, together with the Board of Education, increased the supplements from 6% to 8% a few years ago, and then the following year another 1%, and the following year another 1%. So we now have a 10% supplement for all classroom teachers. What the discussions are is, once we see what the state budget does, the commissioners are interested in increasing that supplement for our school teachers in the 11 to 12% range, is my understanding. We give money to the school system every month. We give them 1/12. Nash Community College gets their funding quarterly. Debt service. The overall debt service for the county represents 6.5% of the total expenditures, or about $6.5 million. And that includes the Nash Public School System as well as Nash Community College. This reflects an increase of $529,000. The increase is primarily due to financing for the new replacement elementary school located at Red Oak. This budget does not include jail debt service, as the debt has not yet been incurred. We anticipate that occurring July or August or sooner. And at that time, we will make the necessary adjustment to the budget for the debt service. If there's 6-month debt service, then we'll have to pay a half a year's debt service. If it's done once a year, then it may not be necessary until the following budget year. Contingency, we put in $15,000, and we also put in $100,000 for our tax reevaluation reserve fund. I sent to the board last week a email regarding our tax values here in the county, and they are now 85% or slightly less than 85%, which triggers a new law that requires us to perhaps do a new revaluation instead of every 8 years, a year early. So instead of 1725, we will have to have one that will become effective January of '24. We are, they get that sales ratio by pulling certain deeds, and they have their system, and it is, it's so close that we have asked them to look, pull some other documents to see if we can avoid that new revow a year early. Of course, a Board of Commissioners, and some do, are free to have revaluations more than every 8 years. You can do it every 6 years, every 4 years, every 2 years. Some counties do it every year. Most counties do it every 8 years, and that's what we do. Other funds to look at are the utility fund, solid waste, and water sewer funds. The fire districts, I'll briefly talk about them. We have 18 fire districts in the county, and they all have an individual tax rate. They are nonprofits. They are not part of county government. They are independent nonprofits. However, the county commissioners must approve their tax rates. Each fire district can have a tax rate up to 15 cents. You can see in the budget here, 3 fire districts are requesting increases this year. These 3 have not requested an increase for some time. They are Stanhope requesting 2.5 cents to go to 10 cents, Harrison Fire District to go to 12 cents, a 2-cent increase, and Tri-County Fire District to increase 3 cents from 10 cents per 100 value to 13 cents. Finally, a copy of the budget has been filed with the clerk to the board and is available for public inspection in the manager's office, as well as on the county website. A notice of public hearing will be published in the Rocky Mount Telegram, the Nashville Graphic, and the Spring Hope Enterprise. The same published statement will give notice as to the time and place of the public hearing during which any person may wish to comment on the budget may appear before the Board of Commissioners. No earlier than 10 days after today, the date of the formal budget presentation, and no later than July 1, 2021, the Nash County Board of Commissioners must hold a public hearing and thereafter adopt a budget ordinance making appropriations, estimating revenues, and levying taxes for the upcoming year. County staff recommends the commissioners hold the public hearing at its regular meeting scheduled for June 7th, 2021, and staff has prepared the notices to be sent to the newspapers. This budget represents our best estimate of revenues and expenditures during the coming year. As with any budget, during the course of the coming year, budget adjustments will be necessary, except for minor exceptions set forth in the budget ordinance. The Nash County Board of Commissioners must approve any such budget adjustments, which increase or decrease a department's total expenditures during the course of the fiscal year. I urge the commissioners to carefully consider and study this proposed budget. If there are any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me. On behalf of your great county staff, we look forward to working with the commissioners during the coming year to provide the best services possible at the most reasonable cost to the taxpayers of Nash County. And with that, I will answer any questions after a break.
I'll call for a 10-minute recess at this point, and we will come back in approximately 10 minutes and be thinking about your questions while we're on break. Thank you. Where we were is we were prepared to have commissioners express comments or questions on the budget that Mr. Lamb has presented to us for year 21-22, and I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to go to my left side first this time and see if any commissioners on the left.
I just think it was a good presentation.
Thank you.
Any questions, Ms. Wells? Are you good?
No, that's it.
Okay. Ms. Leggett or Mr. Combs?
Similar compliments. Thank you.
Good job, well put together. I followed you closely, and it was easy to understand, and fine job. Thank you and your staff.
Thank you.
Boy, the left side of me has failed me, so I'll turn to the right side with questions over there. Any comments or questions from the gentleman on the right?
All right. I think it shows, the budget shows that a lot of work was put into it. But I do have a question. And I commend you and the staff for doing that. But you mentioned hiring part-time security personnel. How many are you talking about? And are they going to be working on different shifts? Or just come in sometime during the week?
Right. I believe we've got enough for three part-time people coming in at 7 or 7:30. What's it, 7 or 7:30? Yeah, 7:30 to 5:30. We felt like we'd normally have 2 people, but people take vacations and things, so we decided we'd put in a third person, but you don't have to work them 20 hours. Well, that's all right, one person at a time. We're going to have one person at a time. One person at a time, they'll work up to 20 hours. They can be, we're going to try to get retired law enforcement. I am going to have a conversation with the sheriff. He does have court security staff, including, I believe, quite a few people, so we may want those people to report to him if he's willing to do that, and we are going to have that conversation with him.
Why don't give some priority, these part-time people, to some people who are totally unemployed, but could qualify to be a part-time security person?
Well, if we do it in-house, if we do it with general administration, they'll be part of facilities. If it's and Jonathan Boone would be the person doing the hiring. If we turn it over to the sheriff will be the one that, and his staff will be the one that make those hires.
Mr. Belfield, you recall that this board discussed that earlier, and this is the position that was set at the new security desk at the bottom floor. And this board had a discussion about.
Yeah, that was my understanding, but I just wanted to know how many are you talking
Sure,
about? Are they going to be working on a shift or?
Right. But we decided, I think, that we prefer to have an armed officer at that location, is what we discussed that day. Excuse me.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other comments, questions?
I got just a couple, and
And if I may follow, I'll make sure that I talk with the sheriff before the 7th, when we have the public hearing, so I'll have a better answer for you then.
Okay.
yeah, just a couple of comments on that. I had it noted here. I would think they would be certified law enforcement individuals that, in a situation necessitating that they be used in other areas in an emergency, that they'd be available. Just my thought. I think you probably should report to the sheriff, but that's your call. You're such a modest person. You make a lot of comments about the budget and revenue, et cetera. I go back to page 2 at the top. It says, with this in mind, we believe this budget reflects our efforts to remain cautious yet focusing on providing the basic level of services. And I just think that we do anything other than provide the basic level of services. I think we provide services well above the basic level. And, you know, I know we've got good staff, and I appreciate all of our staff, but every team's got to have a quarterback, and you're the quarterback. So since you came on staff with us, if you look at page 3, at the tax collection rate, every year it has increased. Every year. It's increased from 95.51 to 99.06. Now, that's significant. That's a lot of money, and you get a lot of credit for being the quarterback on the team that made that happen. Now, you go down to the 10-year outstanding balance. That, on the reverse, has decreased every year since you got here, from 5.71 to 2.97. And, you know, me, I appreciate that. People say we do basic stuff. You hear people saying our tax rate is stable. We don't ever increase our taxes, so therefore, we're probably not doing much. But if you go look at things like facilities, educational facilities, other facilities, salaries, the percent of increase we've provided to the employees for the last 4 years, the percent we're providing this year, which is $1 million. If you look at the supplements, which we've raised from 8 to 10, we're looking going to 12. EMS is probably, if not the best, one of the best in the state. We have significantly increased our funding for education and public safety. Although education doesn't appear in dollar amounts to be increased. We have increased it significantly, so I appreciate your leadership. And I know whoever replaces you, they're going to be a good county manager. But you're pretty good, and I've enjoyed working with you.
Appreciate it.
On the southern part of the county, I just want to go back to that for a minute. I think we meet with the school system twice a year. I don't know when our next meeting is, maybe November. Robert, you might know, Mr. Chairman.
Late October.
Yeah, okay. So I just think that, Mr. Chairman, that should be a subject that is on our agenda every time we sit down with those folks, because they've got a great facilities plan. I know they're looking ahead, but if you go look at the spending that they're talking about, $62 million in 10 years, that's quite a challenge. And we need to start figuring that out if that's something that we think we're going to do, can do, should do. A lot of money. We need to figure it out. Phase 2, Cooper's Miracle Park. I want to ask this board to consider setting aside some funding, initial funding, for that phase. I don't know how much that would be, $500,000, $750,000, something like that. But I would like to see some seed money go into that Phase 2 project. The next thing I want to mention was rescue services. I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. For 125 calls, there's a base rate. They get a base amount. And then for every 25 calls above that, they get 5,000 additional. Is that documented in the budget somewhere, so down the road, everybody will recall that information? We won't have any misunderstanding about it?
We can make sure it's in the budget ordinance if it's not.
Well, I just know that we won't all be here forever, and if it...
Right.
I just don't want anybody down the road to misunderstand exactly what...
We'll clarify that in the
what we're talking
budget
about.
ordinance that will be presented on the 7th.
But it's a good budget, and again, I wish we had the time. I know you don't have the time, but I wish you could sit down and itemize everything that's been accomplished in the years that you've been here in terms of spending. And I think people would get a clear picture that although the tax rate has remained stable, 67 cents, if you could just itemize everything that this board has done, it's just unbelievable.
It really is.
And a lot of that is due to the fact that you have led a team that has increased tax collection rate, and you've done things with EMS, et cetera. I mean, you've done a lot of good stuff here, and thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Good
Appreciate
budget.
that.
Mr. Arrington, any questions, comments, sir?
Well, Mr. Lamb, this is my first budget presentation, so I guess it's comprehensive and, well put together. Sit down and read it. I understand. There's one thing that I mentioned at one of the other work sessions, and I hope that the board or some kind of way that we might with the fire district evaluation and taxation, there's inequity in it, that there's a different rate for different fire district. And the reason I bring that up is because it's taxation on property. And you might take, say, Red Oak Fire Department, and they got better equipment, more people, whatever, and then you have another one, might be like Salem or Harris.
That'll be a good example.
And they're at a different, so I would hope that we can find a formula where we could bring everybody to the same rate so that there wouldn't be this inequity if you live in a poor section of the county that you're paying a higher rate on your taxes and getting, not quite as good a service. So that's one of the things I hope that we can find a better formula for, because it is a taxation on property. I could see if it was a use tax, everybody paying, it's a service, but it's it's a taxation on property.
Right. Understood. Thank you.
Good point. I think one way, Mr. Lamb, just hearing Mr. Arrington speak would just be to look in other counties and see if there's anything done that tries to equalize that total assessed value to help throughout the county. I wouldn't know one way or the other, but that would be a good start as a way to look at, see if other counties do it a different way. And I don't even know if general statute will allow us to.
Yeah,
But certainly we can look
there's
at it.
several different methods counties use. One is direct appropriation to the
Right.
counties, I mean, to the fire departments.
Right.
I'm not sure if you could do a single fire department with 18 or 16 or 15 stations around the county and distribute the money from their fire tax, have a single fire district, but
If you do that, I'd appreciate you wait that after my service is over with.
Yeah.
The guys are pretty passionate,
yeah.
gentlemen, which they need to be.
Commissioner Arrington makes a good point, though.
Yeah, he
You've
does.
got districts that have a lot of land value, and then you have some that have limited land value and
But a large area.
large area. And the one thing I would say is our fire department, you rarely have a one-alarm fire.
Yeah.
If you have a fire in any district, you usually have surrounding fire departments also respond. So there is a lot of coordination and cooperation with the fire departments that make sure that those smaller fire districts are covered.
So anyway, let's just, like I said, look at the possibility of how we can bring
Yep.
equity without diminishing the quality of our fire districts. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Slam, I had just a few things I made notes of as you were speaking only, but fines and forfeitures, I don't see a line item for budget there. Do they just come in? Of course, I know we don't know what they are, but do we appropriate those, or where did they go in the revenue side of the budget when we get some in?
Are they sent straight to the fire, to the schools? They come to us, but they're in and out?
Yes, they're actually in and out, and what you'll see at the June 7th meeting, because of some new JASB requirements, they will be budgeted in a special spending fund.
Okay.
It will actually show up as revenue coming in and expenditures going out, where before, we really considered them more of an agency fund or a
Gotcha.
federal fund,
Okay.
and they were specifically budgeted.
Okay.
But it will be presented in the June meeting for budgeting.
I thought I had read something where there would be a item in the budget where they would come in. I didn't know about the going out, so you will have something in there, before it's approved, showing where they come in, where we'll be able to monitor that number.
That is correct, and
Okay.
actually, in the ordinance, that's the draft ordinance that you have in your book, it actually shows line items for the fines and forfeitures.
Okay.
special revenue fund.
Okay.
Anticipated for
All right, that answers my question, yeah.
But it's the same number. Whatever we budget,
Sure.
it'll be the same number coming in that we have going out.
Yeah, I just would like to have a running total of that you could look at it each month when we get the update in our monthly reports that we get. Mr. Lamb, the 5.8 million fund balance appropriation, which is more than this board's done before, is that, you feel good about that? It's a large number, a little scary to me, but how do you feel about that just in general?
I feel good. You know, the thing that's going to offset that is, number one, you budget $100 million in spending, but you don't spend $100 million. Every department has money left over. Some have more than others. So that's one variable in the equation. And then the ad valorem taxes, as I said, we're at 97.5 versus 99. That's about $750,000 $300,000. That's assuming the 3.2 increase in tax base. We had a similar assumption this year, and it ended up being more of a increase in the tax base. And because of the new construction, I feel like we're going to see better than 3.2% increase in our tax base. You've got some things like Cummins, you've got the subdivisions out here, you've got a lot of single-family home construction. I think that's going to be good. Our sales tax is budgeted based on the first 8 months of this year, divided by 8 and multiplied by 12. So that figure is always increasing, so that's a conservative estimate. So I would say we could expect $500,000 to $1.5 million more than what we're just budgeting in sales tax. So a lot of the revenues, we are very conservative in our revenue estimates. The EMS fees, they went down this year. There were less people on the highways, and they went down some because of COVID, I think, more than anything. I think, they will be better than what we're budgeting. At one time, we're budgeting almost $4 million, and now we're budgeting about $3 million, $3.1 million, I forget. So that's another revenue that we're being conservative. We could max out all those revenues and really reduce the fund balance appropriated, but then if you have an economic downturn and you're not collecting the revenues you think you are, then you just have to come in and appropriate from fund balance. So we try to balance out that formula.
I know you and your staff work every year to get that back to zero before the year ends. You
Oh, yeah,
try
that-
to not use anything.
That's
I'm
right.
not sure how you're going to end up this year.
It'll
Be close.
It'll be close.
It's
It'll be
always-
tight.
yeah.
And if it's only $1 million, and I believe it's 330, so
Okay. You're right. Okay. Go ahead. We're going to pause for a moment, let Mr. Lamb do his update on COVID.
welcome everyone to our Nash County COVID-19 response briefing for May the 24th, 2021. At this time, we will hear from our esteemed Health Director, Mr. Bill Hill.
Gosh, thank you. I have good numbers to continue to report, meaning lower. I reported last Thursday half the number that I had reported the previous.
Can you hear me, Bill?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Let me turn up the volume here.
Let's see. Testing 1, 2. Testing.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. I'm continuing to report better numbers. Last Thursday, I reported 24 new cases. That was half the number I had reported a week ago on Monday. And today I'm reporting 24 new cases over a long weekend since Thursday, the last meeting. That takes us, these 24 new cases, to 11,285. Unfortunately, I have to report 2 new deaths, but they did occur. I don't believe we've had a death since about this before the 16th of May. These did occur, like one in late April and then one about the 10th of May. Just backlogged and coming in because of the cause of death on the death certificate. But these 2 were in the 70s, 2 females in their low 70s that I'm reporting today, that takes our deaths up to 187. When you look at hospitalizations, our metric remains, the number of the words in UNC Nash Hospital remains at 5, a very good low metric that we have had for a week or so. And instead of 2 in ICU. We're reporting 1 in ICU and none or 0 on ventilation or ventilator. When you look at the age brackets, we'll send these out in just a little bit. We're seeing the most in the 30 to 39 age group of the 24 new cases, which would be 6, and then 5 that are over 60. I am seeing 4 in the 5 to 14 age bracket. That's 2 age brackets here. 4 in those 5 to 14, but 3 of those 4 are from the same household. So I think that says a little something with actually not the spread in different households, but 3 of the 4 are in the same household siblings. So having reported better numbers, except unfortunately for the 2 deaths, I think that does conclude my report unless there's some questions.
Yeah, I have a question. Your report on Thursday was for 3 days, so that would be an average of 8 a day. And your report today is for 4 days, so that would be 6 a day. So that daily number continues to trend down. That's great.
Yeah, that is a good thing to see. Sure is.
Any questions for Mr. Hill? If not, we'll hear from Brent Fisher with Emergency Management.
Emergency management. Good afternoon, everyone. Brent Fisher here. Just want to talk about the tropics. I know last week we were looking at 2 events. For the next 48 hours, there's no tropical impacts or no tropical storms that should be forming. So that's good news. As far as our local weather today, scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible, especially with our high temperatures and the high humidity that we're having before 11 p.m. and the possibility of some scattered showers tomorrow after 2 p.m. So that should not hopefully impact the COVID vaccine clinic that the health department will be doing tomorrow. They'll be assisting with starting tomorrow morning. But any type of showers or thunderstorms should be later in the afternoon tomorrow. I did want to mention that due to increased fire risk, the North Carolina Forest Service has issued a ban on all open burning and has canceled all burning permits for 26 counties. Now, Nash County was not included in those 26, but we still have dry conditions around here, so we just urge everyone from a fire standpoint to use extreme caution with any type of open burning. And that burning ban for those 26 counties goes in effect today went in effect today at noon. If anybody wants to know what open burning is, that includes burning leaves, branches, or other plant material. And in all cases, burning trash, lumber, tires, newspaper, plastics, or other non-vegetative material is illegal. So again, we're just urging everybody to use extreme caution during this time of dry weather that we're seeing. Our call volume for the last 24 hours for 911 was 232 calls for service, and EMS was 58. And I believe that's all I've got to report unless there's any questions.
Great. Any questions? If not, I see Dave Peterson with Trillium has joined us today. Dave?
Good afternoon, everybody. Just one thing. This morning, the State Division of Mental Health had their annual disaster response meeting, which is chaired by North Carolina Emergency Management and Red Cross. And I was asked with 2 other managed care organizations to sit on a panel and go over kind of what Trillium does in our 26 counties all along the coast when disasters occur. So I gave a brief presentation on that. The good thing about this was that the standard plan private insurance companies were invited to this meeting now because they're going to be managing a lot of the folks with mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance abuse services when a disaster occurs also. So I just wanted to let folks know about that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Peterson? Any department heads? community partners, or elected officials?
This
Okay.
is Christy Arnold from Word.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, everyone. I just want to announce that on Tuesdays, that Word has partnered with UNC Nash. So on Tuesdays, we will be actually providing COVID vaccines here at the church from 8 to 11 and then from 2 to 4 every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday, okay?
Every Tuesday. Yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Hill, we have a question for you.
Okay, and I would also like to report on our vaccination clinics. I was just getting ready to do that too, but I'll take that question now if you'd like.
Mr. Hill, this is Robbie. You'll probably answer my question, but I know you opened it up last week to a lower age group from 12 through 15. I was just wondering how that went, quite frankly.
Yeah, we did 11 on Thursday and did 1 vial or 6 on Friday. So it wasn't a great demand, but we did do about 17 on Thursday and Friday together. We are working with the school system and reaching out through Deb Terrell with the school system to see if we can't get some of these parents interested in their children getting vaccinated.
Thanks, sir.
And and and
Go
I
ahead,
will
Mr. Hill. Go
and I
ahead.
will add that we got a big vaccination, not as large as some, but 269 scheduled for tomorrow. That's second dose vaccinations. That's 269 more entering a prestigious group of people in 10 more days to be fully immunized. And I certainly would like to encourage anyone that hasn't had their first shot to come tomorrow. We'll be there doing that, or go to Word Tabernacle, wherever's convenient. But we'll certainly be at our regular place in Nashville at the church parking lot, that's adjoining the health department parking lot in the rear, to give second dose shots primarily. But we'll certainly welcome any for first dose shots too. And then the next day on Wednesday, we're going to be following up with some migrant farm labor camps with some second dose shots. And then throwing the net out on Thursday for first dose again. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Hill? I would like to take this opportunity to announce that we are going to have this coming Thursday at 3:30. And because of Memorial Day, we're going to have our next briefing after Thursday on Tuesday at 3:30. And we're going to cut it back to once a week at 3:30 every Tuesday. So please note the change. Again, we will have it this Thursday, and then next Tuesday, and every Tuesday thereafter at 3:30. Anyone else? Thank you all for joining in, and talk to you again, or with you again on Thursday. Thank you.
Okay. I think you answered the last question about your comfort level with 5.8 million. I appreciate that. My next comment was, I have noticed that numerous other entities around us have been budgeting a portion under revenue of the American Recovery Act funding coming in, and it doesn't look like we have done that. Is that correct?
We have not. We have not. We anticipate in July doing some budget amendments to include that money in our spending plan.
Okay, so
We just got the guidance in the last couple weeks.
Right.
And we just felt like it's still some uncertainty, and we just want to make sure we get it right.
Okay, understood. I think that's wise. I just noticed quite a few were doing that, maybe premature, I'm not sure. But along that same line with the American Recovery Funds, I do notice in what you pointed out to us here and what I saw previously under capital improvement request, you have got included a relatively small percentage of what was asked by various departments. And of course, these are funds that we all know we should spend on one-time items. So I guess we can go back and look at all capital improvements that were asked for and maybe move some more of those out of the not funded category to the funding moving forward. Is that what we're thinking?
If they qualify for that spending. I can tell you water, sewage, broadband definitely does qualify, and need a little clarification on some other areas, but yeah, as long as those requests from this budget process qualify under the act, then
Okay.
we can certainly look at that, but the commissioners will make that final decision.
You seem to be pretty proud about the general fund budget being 10.1% of the total budget, which I think is a great number.
General government,
General government, yes. General government, thank you, sir. But the 10.1% for general government, but I would like, no, you don't know today, but I would like to know moving forward what portion you had. One of the items listed funded out of that was this Board of Commissioners. I'd like to know what percentage the Board of Commissioners cost you out of that 10.1%.
It would be
Don't worry about
about
an answer.
1.3% of that 10 million.
1.3%.
It's about 130,000, if I remember, the commissioner's budget, unless we put the 50,000 for the study in.
It's $128,499.
$128,499
Is the total cost of this board.
of this board, out of $10 million for general government.
Okay, just a thought I had as you were speaking about that. The $15,000 contingency seems to be an awful low number for in excess of $100 million budget. So I guess our real contingency is our fund balance. So why do we even have the $15,000 in there?
It started off higher, but in different budgets, we weren't using it very often. And to get the numbers where we wanted to, we'd reduce that. So it's down to 15 now. You're right, it could be eliminated. It has to be approved. Any transfer of that to another department has to be approved by the board anyway. So it's just a second little teeny fund balance.
Okay, all right. When we have our public hearing, Mr. Lamb, on the 7th, let's just say we had some citizens here that asked questions about it. I'd just like to know how you would like for that to be handled. Is it something, it's not something we generally have, but we certainly could have as people more aware of what we do over here at the county. Would you like to answer them
I'll be glad
at that point, or would you like for us to, as the board, refer them to get back to you, or just how?
Unlike public comments, where you have a policy of getting back, I think since y'all have in the past approved the budget after the public hearing on the same meeting, I think we need to get people their answers before you vote to approve the budget. So I'll be glad to.
So we would just call on you on the spot to answer those. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
And my last little comment for you and the clerk, at $10.1 million for the general government, I would like to add $180 to that number if we could, so at our 6 second meetings of the month, we would have maybe an allotment of about $30 for snacks in the back, also that we don't generally have at our second meeting.
Okay.
$180.
Yeah, I noticed we didn't have any snacks
Okay.
today. That
All
was-
right. That's all I had. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I too will say, on behalf of the board, it was a great budget. And one more thing I did want to mention, Mr. Lamb, I want the board to know, a couple of us have aware of this, but I do know that you met 2 or 3 times last week with the sheriff to work on his budget and try to get a point where you and he could agree on something. That's something that sorely needed to be done. I hear from both sides that it went extremely well, and on behalf of the board, I greatly appreciate your effort at that. And Brandon, is that you in the back, sir? Yes, sir. It's hard to tell with a mask, but if you would let the sheriff know that comment, if he would, and sometimes he has someone watching the meeting, sometimes he doesn't, but it was a great relief to see y'all come to terms on the budget, and it come to the commissioners very peaceful and agreed upon, and I appreciate both of the effort in doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that said, we'll move on to the next item, which is item number 6, which is county resolution for North Carolina opioid allocation, and I will turn it over to Mr. Durham and Mr. Lamb again. I know you were very involved on the state level, one of the five people that worked on this. I appreciate your efforts on that. I know it may have been a difficult subject for you to work on, but I think we've got a very good report today. And Mr. Durham, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you. The resolution included in your agenda packet sets forth the reasons why we need this settlement, and it is contingent upon and prepared in anticipation of a settlement of the national opioid litigation. In North Carolina, 76 counties and 8 municipalities have filed litigation against the opioid manufacturers and distributors, but the settlement that the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners and the Department of Justice have agreed upon includes all 100 counties. So we are included in this settlement, even though we did not, Nash County did not file any litigation. You are correct that Z was very involved in those negotiations as a member of the committee called the 555 Committee, which consisted of 5 commissioners, 5 managers, and 5 county attorneys. And I think Z deserves a great deal of credit for their hard work and their efforts on our behalf in this litigation. The settlement is estimated to bring $850 million to the state of North Carolina and its local governments. 80% of that will go to counties, 15% will go to the state, and there's a 5% incentive fund to encourage counties and their large municipalities to sign on to the agreement. This resolution has already been approved by a number of counties, and those that haven't approved, most of them have it on their agenda for the first Monday in June. The settlement amount that I just recited will be paid over 18 years, and the agreement and the memorandum of agreement is very specific about what these funds must be spent on, and they're primarily to be spent on prevention, treatment, and cure and of the results of the opioid settlement. I think the first paragraph is very pertinent, where it states that as of 2019, the opioid epidemic has taken the lives of more than 16,500 North Carolinians, has torn families apart, and has ravaged communities from the mountains to the coast. I'm happy to answer any questions. Mr. Lamb probably knows more about this than I do, but I have reviewed the memorandum of agreement and approve it and recommend that we adopt this resolution.
Any questions from the board? And what we do need to leave here today is a motion to approve that would allow me to sign the resolution.
Mr.
Make a
Chairman.
motion to approve.
Let me get questions, Ms. Wells. I'm going to take your motion
Hold on.
right after questions. Mr. Lamb?
Take it back.
I was just going to let you know that of that 850 million, it's a formula based on the number of pills prescribed over a certain period of time, number of cases, and I forget the third thing, but
Deaths.
deaths.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And our share is like 0.9%, so it'll be right at $7 million over 18 years that we'll get.
Questions from commissioners about the settlement? Seeing no questions, I have a motion from Ms. Wells to approve the resolution. Is there a second to that motion? Second. Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion stands approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Durham and Mr. Lamb again for serving on that committee. We'll move to item number 7, which is a final amendment change order for contract 1 with J. Smith Civil for the municipal corporation infrastructural improvement, which is water, sewer, and roadway. And I call on Mr. Boone at this time.
Good afternoon. Thank you, sir. As you indicated, the matter you have before you is a final amending change order on contract 1 with J. Smith Civil for the work at the Middlesex Corporate Center. As you recall, that project included the construction of about 3,000 linear feet of roadway into the park, the extension of a water main along the parkway from 231 to 264 alternate, and also the extension of gravity sewer to the rear of the Shell building there at the park. This is one of the change orders always happy to bring to you that results in a reduction in the total to the contract. There were several items here in change order 2 to address some additional items or elements of work. But once we adjust the contract for actual quantities installed on the project, it results in a net reduction of $81,158.11. So you may recall the original contract was issued at $1,791,138.68. Had one change order early in the project related to some water improvements, infrastructure. And then this final amending change order for a net result of $1,722,967.29. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions from the board? I certainly invite you, if you hadn't been down, to look at the work, to ride down and take a look at it. Mr. Boone, do we still keep that gate locked, or is it unlocked and gone now? What's the status of the gate?
We keep the gate locked.
Still keep it locked, okay. Also, if a commissioner was down there and wanted to go in, he could just call you. Or do we have a
The
code
gate on the
there?
231 end of the project's been kept locked. While they were still working on the tank, they would unlock the gate on the 264 alternate end, so that would be the approach to come in on.
Okay, all right. Any questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Leggett. Is there any questions on that motion? Mr. Boone said it is a reduction change order. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Request stands approved, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We'll move to item number 8, which is a likewise contract amendment number 7 for ELJ on the Northern Nash Water Project. Likewise in the fact it is a request for a change order. Go ahead, Mr. Boone.
Yes, sir. This particular change order is somewhat of a good news, bad news scenario. Work is still underway on the Northern Nash Water System, contract 1 with ELJ. And we've had a number of items that we've been working with ELJ and the Wooten Company, our design engineer, to resolve. And this particular change order addresses some additional work on the project. When the project was initially bid back in late 2018, an assumption was made regarding the number of connections that will be made to the system. And I'm happy to report that we have had requests above and beyond the quantities that were included in the initial contract. So what you will see in this particular change order is the addition of about 184 one-inch taps in the district, which would bring us to a total of 992, so just shy of 1,000. And then if you remember the project with the landing at Cooper Fields, that was about 40. So actually in the district itself, we will have north of 1,000 customers that will be served by that project or have the ability to be served. There were some other elements of work that were the estimated quantities were underestimated, particularly on driveways. So this change order addresses an increase in work to repair private driveways at properties being crossed in conjunction with the project, concrete driveway repairs, gravel driveway repairs. And then we had some additional work over in the northern Nash area. We encountered a situation that had not been addressed in the original design, and as opposed to boring under a couple of culverts on Lambert Lane and Morningstar Lane, I believe it is, we coordinated with the DOT, and they allowed us to install some additional valves such that, at the time that the DOT elects to replace the culvert, we can remove a section of pipe, and that was much more cost effective than boring underneath the culvert. So that, in addition to some additional work at Red Oak Middle School, brings us to a total change order of $288,342.47. In addition to the increase in the contract for these additional elements of work, there's time that has been negotiated to complete that work. 95 days for the additional 184 private water services, 57 days for the work on those driveways, both concrete and gravel, and then weather days to the end of February, and that's to the extent that we've received requests from ELJ, 28 days. So it adds 190 days to the contract, which, based on the original schedule, brings us to a time for completion, substantial completion, about a month ago, April 26th. So we were beyond the current or even the modified date, and then a substantial completion, or completion rather, final payment of 737 days. So the only outstanding item I'm aware of at this point that we have left to resolve is an issue regarding asphalt repairs on the project, both on DOT roadways and on private driveways. And ELJ has indicated that at this time, they want to wait until the end of the project to resolve that issue. But it could result in a substantial change order, but we're just going to have to wait and see. There's certainly a difference of opinion in terms of what the contract documents have to say, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on that to detract from the current change order. But I just want you to be aware that item is still out there. But again, somewhat a good news, bad news scenario. Additional 184 customers, which is great. We want to see the district grow. We're seeing development. You've already referred to that earlier in the southern part of the county, but also in the Red Oak and Dorches area. And this project is well suited to serve that development. So while we hate to have to allocate an additional roughly $300,000 to the project, it's good to know that we're bringing additional customers or have the capacity to serve additional customers with these improvements. That said, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from board members?
Yeah,
Mr. Belfield?
Mr. Boone, to take care of the amendment to the Nash Water System request, do you have enough funds to take care of that in the utilities, or would this have to come from fund balance?
No, this particular increase can be accommodated within the current budget that was approved for the project.
Of the current budget we have now?
Yes, sir.
will take care of this. Okay.
We had a rather large contingency on this project, and we're still working out of that contingency. Other questions?
Well, why do we have to amend it then if it's already in the budget?
This board, you answered the question, sir, I'm sorry.
The contract amendment amends the contract with the contractor. So we're not taking any action on the budget today. This amends the contract with ELJ in order for them to do the work.
This is something that he's found that it's going to cost additional to the.
Well, again, we're adding work to the contract. So this is the
Adding work,
mechanism
okay.
that we amend the contract to do that work.
You don't need to go any further, I got you.
Okay. Thank you. Other comments, questions? Entertain a motion for approval. So moved. Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bellfield. Questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Request stand approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That was item number 8. We'll move to item number 9, which is 2021 summer intern. I'll call on Ms. McGee at this time, and we can just welcome back intern that we had last year, which is always great. Probably come back to work with a lot more knowledge, I guess.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
In April, we contacted again the Center for Creative Leadership about hosting a Golden Leaf College Scholarship intern during the summer. And while several interns initially showed interest, one intern committed to work at Nash County this summer. And so we're very excited that Kathy Nicholson, who's a rising junior at UNC Greensboro from Wilson, has returned for her second internship at Nash County. She worked here last summer as an intern through the same program. And she is scheduled to work 240 hours. She's just a little beyond halfway already. She's working in May and June, and she's located in the third floor library in the Nash County Administration Building. And currently, she's assisting 3 departments: Grants and Housing, Veteran Services, and Parks and Recreation. And all of her supervisors report that she's doing fantastic work for the county. And so we're very pleased to once again have this bright young scholar. Kathy, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes. I just want to say that thank you all for this opportunity, and I'll continue to learn new things that I'm sure I can use in my future. And yeah, just thank you.
We certainly thank you for being here and coming back again. Board want to give her a hand?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you again. That was item number 9. Patsy, if you want to go ahead and take item number 10 while you're at the podium, 2020 Community Development Block Grant.
Yes, sir. As you know, Nash County has been awarded $900,000 in Community Development Block Grant coronavirus funds by the state of North Carolina. And of the $900,000, $405,000 has been allocated for subsistence payments to support 405 low and moderate income households in Nash County by providing up to $1,000 in assistance for utility invoices and/or rent or mortgage payments. The North Carolina Department of Commerce Rural Economic Development Division requires us to have an agreement with Nash Edgecombe Wilson Community Action Incorporated to provide the application intake, determine the applicant eligibility, including the duplication of benefits review, and administer the subsistence payments on behalf of Nash County. So the subsipient agreement included in your packet details the scope of work to be performed on behalf of the county in accordance with the regulations set forth by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the State Department of Commerce. Per the county attorney, we have filled in the information in the section regarding notices, and we've requested a fidelity bond required by section 14. On Thursday, Nash, Edgecombe Wilson Community Action Incorporated approved the agreement, and we're asking you today to also approve the subsipient agreement. In your packet is a memo from the Wooten Company, which is administering this grant for us, the subrecipient agreement, and the assistance policy. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from board members of Ms. McGee? If not, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Move approval.
Motion by Mr. Bellfield, second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion?
Mr. Harrington,
Mr.
second.
Harrington, I'm sorry. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion stands approved as well. Thank you, ma'am. Item number 11 is our second meeting of the month, Commissioner, Board, Committee, and Special Report. Mr. Outlaw, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll start with District 1, Commissioner Arrington.
Okay. I met with, let me get here. Okay. Yeah, okay, well, I met with the Spalding Family Resource Center. They had a pretty good meeting with the public and to go over their plans for the coming site development. And that's, I think, the major thing that they're trying to develop, go back into the Spalding Center. And I also had a brief meeting with the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, which went well. That's it.
Anybody have any questions for Commissioner Arrington? I believe the mic is off. Any questions? Hearing none. District 2, Commissioner Bellfield.
Okay, Top River Transit met week before last to approve application for a grant from the DOT, state, and also the Federal Transportation Department for rural services in the Twin Counties, providing transportation, and also inner city Rocky Mount. And hopefully we get those grants. We think we will. JCPC, we have not met. Upper Coastal Plain Council of Government, we did meet last week. And basically all we did was approve, the most important part was approving the budget, in which we did, and some $4 million. A little over $4 million budget for fiscal year coming up. Need, we met and we discussed, we're going to change the name from Need to Nash. Where's the station? Nash Wilson NEW. That's it. Yeah, NEW.
Gonna have a new name.
It's not official yet because some of the board members asked for some wording come under that rather than just having NEW. What type of services that it involves. So I guess when we have our next meeting, because we have a meeting this coming Thursday, but that's basically training for board members. Am I correct, Jason? Stacy? And that's it. That's my report. Of course, we hopefully soon will announce who will be the next executive director of need. It may come up in next month's meeting as to who the committee going to be recommending. So that's my report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Commissioner Belfield? Hearing none, District 3, Commissioner Cone.
Human Services Board has not met again yet. We stopped when the COVID pandemic started. Agriculture Advisory Board has not met, and Trillium meets virtually tomorrow. So that's all I have.
Did we decide that Trillium might possibly be a presenter? That's going to be in June, I think. Great, great. Thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Cone? Hearing none, District 4, Commissioner Leggett.
All right. The hospital board met on May 6th, and at that meeting, we received an update on the hospital's master facility plan, which included many infrastructure and maintenance type items, as well as optimizations for various departments. Some of those upgrades included some modifications to the emergency room. Hospice, their office being moved to a different building, Building 100. Cancer Center being expanded into some of the Nash Day space. At that meeting, they reported that some of their COVID numbers and vaccination numbers, they said that, this is a little outdated now, but as of April 29th, that 25% of Nash County residents had been vaccinated for COVID-19. Also, most notably, their recent leapfrog score, which is like their report card, they got an A grade. That's the second time in a row that they've gotten that. That's a major improvement and something that Nash County should be very, very proud of. The STEP board last met on March 16th, meets again on June 22nd. They're continuing their work to support student learning and connecting students with job opportunities and, learning opportunities and future needs there. I'm also on the Farmers Market Board and just want to give a brief update there. Their attendance so far this year is almost double what it was last year. Also, they distribute EBT and Fresh Buck dollars to be spent there at the market, and year-to-date, they're about 3 times what they were last year, so they're just increasing the number of people that can be served at that market. And Nash County is also participating and assisting to coordinate a fresh produce box program through the Upper Coastal Plain Council of Governments through some funding there, and they're serving a little over 250 recipients weekly with fresh produce in a 5-county area. That's all I have.
Any questions for Commissioner Leggett? Hearing none. Stacy, would you add Farmers Market to her list of committees? It's not listed on here. And a quick question, Mr. Manager, regarding COVID vaccinations. When we talk about 25, whatever the percentage is of the county that's vaccinated, does that include the total population or just the population that's currently eligible for vaccination?
I believe it's the total population.
Is that a fair way to do it? I mean, if you got people that are not even eligible for it, but
Yeah, it's skewed because of that, but
just something
yeah,
to think about.
that's the way the state does it, I believe.
Okay. State might want to think about it as well.
I thought they were classifying that based on those that are eligible. That's the way I'm hearing it on the national level. Is
That, all the meetings I've been on the state level, it's like that.
I don't think they're including that part of the population that's not eligible at this time to be.
Would you just check into that?
I'll check into
Yeah,
it.
check that out.
I believe they've got the numbers a little bit skewed.
Yeah, you need to check that out.
All right, District
Yes, sir.
5, the Transportation Advisory Committee last met on May the 12th. Nothing significant to report from that meeting. Next meeting is July 21st.
If you have any rural, county, DOT issues, let me know. I know we're working on one in Commissioner Arrington's district now. Nash Community College Board of Trustees met on May the 19th. Again, nothing significant to report there. I would mention that the vet tech expansion is ongoing. The next meeting is scheduled for June 21st. Nash County Broadband Committee, you should have received an email from Ms. McGee on the updated status of that project. It's quite a detailed update. I'd encourage you to look at it and review it. And if you have any questions, comments, you can direct them to me or directly to Ms. McGee. It's a very good report. Our next committee meeting with Cloudwise is scheduled for June the 10th. Any questions?
I just want to mention one thing that I left out. I should have mentioned. The Upper Coastal Plain Council of Government is going to start back meeting on a regular basis like we were before the pandemic. And it's most likely going to be at Nash Community College.
Thanks, sir. Okay. District 6, Commissioner Wells.
I really have no reports.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. District 7, Commissioner Davis, and once Commissioner Davis completes his report, then I would turn the agenda back over to you, sir.
All right, on the Tourism Development Authority, we met on May the 11th, I think it was, at 2 o'clock. We had 7 requests for funding for the upcoming year. The board chose to approve all that were requested. It's my memory, I didn't bring my agenda with me. Donna, is that a true statement? Okay, thank you. You were looking at me a little bit hard, I just wanted to make sure. But we did approve all requests. We had a couple of 3 requests that generally are there, but were not there simply because they were approved last year, did not have their events, therefore we rolled their funding into the next year to be used, and so we didn't have to reallot funds for those. We did have a little bit of decrease in revenue that came in or that was available. It really wasn't near as bad as what I would have anticipated, quite frankly. And when you ask the hotelers that were in the meeting, they primarily said it was due to the amount of construction going on in this area, and we had a lot of construction workers staying in hotels that made up a large part of the difference that we had lost in tourism itself. So that was a good thing. We've had a lot of large construction projects going on, particularly in our industries. And the only new request that we had that was approved was from the town of Bailey, and they had a request at the meeting for some funding for the current year we are in for an event they had last week, one night. Was it Thursday night? I think it was. But anyway, they had some event that was downtown in Bailey with a band playing into the night. It may have been Saturday night, okay. But we did give them some funds to have the one for this year, and they also had a request to have the same funds for the same event that they were planning to have next year and from all the years moving forward. And I think it's the beginning of something they want to do that's similar to the Blooming Festival in Nashville as well as the Pumpkin Festival in Spring Oak. So the board did approve both of those requests. It wasn't a large amount of money, but we did encourage them to work on their sponsorships, et cetera. It was a fairly large sum based on the budget for the whole event, but the board was certainly willing to do that to get another event in the county moving forward in a town that didn't have an event. So that meeting went very well, quite frankly, and was well attended, and we did do it in this meeting in person. The MPO actually met on the 17th last week at 4:30. We did do it virtual again. No real significant items on that agenda because we had been pretty slow during COVID, but we did have it and approved those items that needed to be approved to keep us going for the next quarter. we did, or I actually did ask that we next time meet in person if at all possible, because that's a board I think we would do much better in person, and they agreed that they would do that, and we generally meet at City Hall in the commissioner, in the council's committee room is where we generally meet at. So we'll be meeting in 3 months and have that meeting again. And that wraps up my report. Any questions on those items? Seeing none, we'll move back to the agenda. That completes item number 11. And I'll ask the manager if he has anything else before I ask for a closed session.
No, sir.
Any other comments from board members? At this time, then, I would ask for a closed session. The closed session is for a matter of attorney-client privilege, and there will be no action taken in the closed session. And I had requested that Mr. Tyson be here for that, if somebody can notify him. And really, all we would need is the attorney, the manager, our assistant manager for that meeting, and of course, the clerk and the board. Since everybody was satisfied, or appeared to be pretty satisfied with the budget today, I'd like to entertain a motion to go ahead and conduct a public hearing on June the 7th at our 9 o'clock meeting. So I'd entertain a motion to conduct a public hearing at that time.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Leggett, second by Mr. Williams. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. I entertain a motion to close the meeting for May the 24th.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Outlaw, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Aaron. Questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Stand adjourned.